In this video, let's look at another way to create validation. This is going to be a little different than the attributes we saw before. We saw this minimum age attribute. It is a custom attribute that you can put on top of a field. But you may have a situation where you may want to keep all the validations for this particular model. It may be a little bit too difficult to write an attribute for each and every specific scenario. You may want to just do a whole bunch of validation on your model. So this is what we call as self-validating objects. Okay. So this method where we are going to keep it all contained within the object is going to be called as self-validating object. So that is also going to fall under data annotation. So for that, what we do is we go to the course. So I'm going to show an example with the course. Let's say we go to the course and then we implement it on iValidate object. Okay. See, right now, this iValidate object, we can peek. This is what the method is. So for attribute, it was isValid. That was the method that we overrode. For this iValidate object, it's an interface. So we are going to implement this method on the interface. So if you want to implement a method on the interface, just do a control click and it says implement interface. See, it created this method, an implementation of this method over here. So when you implement the iValidatable object for your model, it provides you with this method. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to do validations here. Okay, so the throw new not implemented exception, we can take this line out because we are going to return some valid value. So let's think about it. So it is again having the same like the attribute that we did. The minimum age attribute had a validation context. So our iValidate object also uses the validation context, right? So let's see how we can validate. So let us say that we want to, validation 1 will be description cannot exceed 5 words. This can be credit has to be 1 to 4. Yeah, let's just do a couple of them. So I just say here, so my credits is going to be a string. So I'm going to do int.parse of credits greater than max credits, which we have not defined here. So if this is the case, if my credit is more than the maximum allowable credits, I'm going to send an error here. Okay, think about the return value. So how does it look? It's an enumerable validation result, which means it is going to be some kind of a collection of objects. The object is validation result. So whenever you want to return, so in this case, there is only one error, right? In this situation. So whenever you want to return like one instance, one specific object from a collection of objects, you use the method, you use the keyword yield. Okay, so validation result is going to, we are going to set the error message and then the field name. So the error message is going to be credit must be between 1 and 4. And then the name of the field is going to be credits. Okay, so this would return this is the exception. So we are throwing an exception This is going to be your error message, and this is going to be the field. Okay, let's look at the second validation. Let's say if description, that's my field. Let's split that because it's going to have spaces. That means that's a word. And then let's find the length. Oh, I switched the validation. Sorry, the comments are wrong. So that's one validation. Okay, the first validation is number of credits has to be between 1 and 4. Second validation is description cannot exceed 5 words. Okay, so if this is the case, you would yield another error. See, if you just try to, without this yield, if you just try to return this, you'll get an error. Okay, because you don't want to return one element. You have to return an array of elements, right? See, the return is I in you, it's a collection. This is supposed to be a collection. But if you use the yield keyword here, then it lets you return just one instance of that collection. Okay, let's change. Okay. So let's make this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. See, this is the first one I wrote here. So I'm getting that error first. Once I clear that error, I get the second error, which is description is too word. Now we are good. Okay. So this is just yet another way to do the validation. Remember, so you go to your model and implement this iValidate object. Do a control click on this guy. Okay, do a control click, and that is going to help you. It will create an implementation of this method. And in here we are doing validation. This yield is really important when you return just one object from a collection of objects. Okay, so that is what we did. So this is another way to have self-validating objects. So another way to validate, where we are going to keep all the validation at the model level and we are not creating any attributes. Okay, thank you.